MFs and others, hello and welcome to another episode of Hustle Like You Broke. Each week we'll take a balanced look from behind the scenes, celebrating the working class heroes of the concert industry. My name is Matthew Walt, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, where I am still sheltered in place. Coming up on 6 weeks at home, longest stretch I have ever done anywhere, and it fucking sucks. I am not a teacher. I love my children, but I want their teachers helping them with their education. Let's not have that conversation. I'm just saying I would rather be anywhere but here doing something productive with my life. Now, as always, I am honored and proud to be joined by three great friends and colleagues from Miami, Florida, up first this week. The incomparable Christine Dallas.
I'm well,
How are you,
thank
Dallas?
you. Hanging in there.
Excellent. Coming from Los Angeles, California, the amazing Kyle Hamilton. Mr. MF, how are you?
Good evening, staying balanced. Just finished a nice little video chat with my son. We're staying here in this Coronacation, but again, he's not staying away from me via FaceTime-cation.
I appreciate that. And we're going to have another podcast about that one day in terms of how we deal with our families and talk to them when we are far from home. And in that respect, I should say, I am very fortunate to be with my children right now under these circumstances and in that respect. And Brother Banks, also from Los Angeles, California. Mr. Chris Lee, my good brother Banks, I know you too are appreciating the time with your daughter. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Desperately need a haircut, but I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to be calm and patient with my daughter because teaching a 7-year-old every day is challenging.
Wow.
But I'm hanging in there.
Well, you are a better man than me. I am sure of that. I already was, but now even more so. So on our last episode, our first podcast, we were talking about the work stoppage. It was Coachella, and we weren't there. But what we didn't get into was the things that we could be doing to help ourselves, both as an industry and as individuals in times like this, because one of the things that I think we all agree we want to figure out in the coming months and years is how we can be productive and earning when we are not doing what we otherwise do every week on the road, what we are used to as part of our jobs. And Kyle, you were the one person we did not talk to about what you were doing at Coachella, because if I remember correctly, you actually were not going to be at Coachella. But what you are doing, you are actually gainfully employed right now, doing other work for at least one, if not multiple artists. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit jealous.
Well, you shouldn't be jealous because, unbeknownst to you, I actually was supposed to be at Coachella. I just fly under the radar. When you're blessed to have a
I
handful of
see. I
different
see.
clients.
I see. Well, thank you for not telling me that. I would have been happy not to see you, but now I know I would have.
But sometimes
Anywho.
I just like to pull up. What are you doing here? Well, what are you doing here? So at the end of the day, yes, I was supposed to do actually 2 artists for Coachella.
Look into this guy.
And of course, it fell apart like a knit sweater.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with that being said, on the other side of it, I also my roots came from studio, so I always do studio mixes or studio recordings for a lot of upcoming artists. Because today's new artist is tomorrow's headliner. So, with that being said, you give everybody a little bit of chance. It's a different pay scale per se because we're dealing with new independent artists, whatnot. The monies aren't huge, but if you do a handful of things that don't really wear you out, you can still make some nice little money to sustain. Because again, being self-employed, you have to. It's not like I can say, "Yo, can I get some of that stimulus package, or can I get some of this, some of that?" Because I do everything myself, self-insured, self everything. So the hustle, so like you broke model, was perfect when you said, "Yeah, let's figure this out," because I hustle so that I don't become broke. Um, but at the end of the day, a lot of studio stuff I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. A lot of recording with artists, and a lot of mixing, and also it gives me a chance to get back to where I began my career. A handful of years ago, 25, 26, 27. It goes on and on, but again, you have to be able to balance yourself out between the live and the recording. And so now I'm in the recording mixing side of it, since everything has come to an abrupt halt. And to keeping the bills paid, because I don't want to be caught up in a situation where everybody's giving these deferments, and then when the deferment time hits, you step with a big bill that it can hit you on the top of the head and make you lose everything. So I'm not going to be a part of that. Hopefully I won't be a part of that trend when it shows up in the next few months.
Well, and I appreciate where you're coming from. I am envious that you do have, that possibility to fall back when you are not on the road. For me, what's crazy is I really thought that I had a diversified business. I am. I work with multiple record labels, handling their complete roster as a tour director, as a production manager, doing creative design, and providing all kinds of staffing and different services and what have you, but all of it is live event oriented. I thought that, if a client doesn't work out here, or a tour doesn't go down there, thank goodness I have other work. I have other things that I can do. But apparently I'm not diversified enough, because the entire live events industry is in the shitter right now. And we talked last time, whether it's this fall, next spring, next fall. I mean, there are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of people out there. There are thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people in our industry alone that are out of work and looking for some way to make money. So Dallas, talk to us. What do you see? I know you also talk about being a swimming instructor, and that's not live event oriented, but apparently it requires, some proximity to other
Absolutely.
people, because I'd assume you're not able to do that anymore
No, the
right
dry
now
land
either.
is not quite as exciting as the wet pool. That's for sure when it comes to that. No, exactly what you say. I mean, I'm skilled in, I can do everything from change a marquee to sell a beer to write a contract for a show. But guess what? No show, no theater, no festival, no bus, no truck, no nothing. And I'm sitting here going, okay, what do you do next, Dallas? Because I can transfer my skills. Sure, I can do what? Help FEMA and go, build emergency worlds for people that need hospitals. I guess that's what I could transfer to, but it's not really what I want to do. And no,
Well, forget want. Forget want. I mean, that's actually a great idea. Like, let's talk about that. Like, what can people be doing right now?
I
Let's give people an idea. Let's give people who haven't
well, I'm
thought of these things some hope for finding
Well, I
gainful
think,
employment,
this is where,
please.
like, for example, being in audio, as both Chris and Carl have said, you guys do have the liberty of being in closed off spaces, doing your jobs. You don't have to be in the proximity of the person making the noise, right? Because nowadays you have the ability to be able to record and do work outside of the immediate. But in my case, everything I do does require, some sort of interaction with humans. And we can transfer into helping, but because, I do think we could build like they're doing in building, in Java Center, building hospitals and stuff like that. If you're an electrician, you can be very handy in that respect. Carpenters, many people can help, but it is hard to figure out, how do you get in there? got to get that transition, get in the door. And even, like I say, like with my work with the American Red Cross, where I was hoping it could transfer over somewhere, that's not really an option right now because there's a lot of other people who are also in the same boat who might be in other fields and can try to apply their skills. But looking forward, it's a real quandary.
Well, Banks, you, of course, also working in the audio industry, you have referenced the possibility that you do actually have some work going on with a client that's done a couple of television appearances, and kudos to you. But for those of us that do not have that opportunity, please, what do you think? What do you suggest?
I've my beginning started off in houses of worship, and even though people aren't gathering, houses of worship are still broadcasting. They're still doing their weekly broadcasts, 2 to 3 broadcasts depending on how many services they have a week. So I've dove back into that world, and a lot of these houses of worship are doing pre-recorded for their music. So they're bringing in the singers and recording the songs, the musicians, and the message. So I've been involved with a lot of those places doing that, recording it, and also mixing it for their broadcasts. That's been a huge thing, and a lot of houses of worship don't have qualified people on a weekly basis, that can handle what they're trying to do with this next, wave of trying to reach their audiences. So there's a lot of, positions that need to be filled. There's editors that are needed. There are lighting programmers. There are camera operators. There's, all kinds of different avenues that these ministries are needing, and they do have the budgets.
Right.
To basically pay people, not, of course, it depends on the ministry and how large it is, but, it's very close to your industry wage. They're doing interviews, where they're booking, guests, virtually, or even coming into a small studio. I mean, there are places that are still doing things like that, like houses of worship. So, I mean, that's been a huge market for not a lot of people that don't normally consider that, a place where you can actually make money.
I'm sorry.
Another, I know it sounds funny, but
a lot of money in
they
church.
make a whole
I
lot.
just had to
lot of
laugh
money.
because Easter Sunday the other day, someone was like, "Oh, turn on the sermon," and of course, just my luck. The minute I turned on, they were of course asking for money. I was like, "Yeah, there you go, house of worship, pay your money."
Yeah.
Oh, let's not even have that conversation, Dallas. Dallas always got to say the.
You got to pay your tithe. You got to make no money.
I've also had a lot of buddies. I was going to say, I've also had a lot of buddies. I mean, now with everybody sheltered in place and people not being able to leave their houses, and I've had a lot of buddies that have, turned to Amazon. Not just actually working in a warehouse or delivering, but also just doing product fulfillment. Doing things on the website. To basically do people who are IT guys. Basically helping them with their traffic and writing new code, to help them fulfill their orders. I even had a couple of companies, contact me about, just technical support, doing that from home. It's basically a system. They send you the software, and if you've used the gear before and you're very well versed in it, then, you can walk somebody through troubleshooting. Because, like I said, churches are still using products while this is still happening. People are doing more and more, Instagram lives, Facebook lives. So they're using equipment, that they're normally not accustomed to. So there's a lot of different things that, people need help with.
So let me. I'm sorry, please, Kyle. Go ahead.
I have a church service to go to tonight to get their audio together. And and also churches are now going to the live stream, empty sanctuary, but we still do the same thing. And also we record multiple sermons, and then put them up on random Sundays. That happens to be the new church service of the Coronacation.
The Coronacation. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys talking about specific examples. I think that is fantastic. I'm also curious, though. I mean, how do we do something as an industry that helps people find these jobs, that connects people to these jobs, that makes it possible to sustain our workforce? Because, we've talked about the Music Cares program and the Crew Nation program and the government programs, and it's fantastic. I appreciate anybody that is willing to put up money to support our workforce, but that's not going to sustain if this virus, plays out into next year, not even into this fall. And it's great to hear that there are outlets, especially for skilled individuals, that are able to go into a church or somewhere to pick up work. But I want to throw two thoughts at you guys, both kind of reference something brought up by our resident provocateur, Dallas, who had to talk last time about unionizing
don't
our
let me
workforce.
I don't want to sound like a union cap, so I'm not that.
Okay, I'm playing. But here's the question. Here's the question. I want to throw two crazy thoughts at you. The first one is, what if, as an industry, we created a fund and some mechanism where people could pay into it as they are working, when we are back to work, whatever it is they want to pay in, and that can go into some sort of investment fund, mutual fund, whatever. And we would obviously, figure out a board that would manage that money and what have you. And then when, heaven forbid, we have another work stoppage, people are able to get their money out. And if there isn't another work stoppage, knock on wood, God willing, we can work the rest of our careers and this never happens again. Then those of us who do not have a retirement fund, those of us who are independent contractors who've been hustling our whole lives because we don't work for another company, we actually have a little bit of a retirement savings there available to us too. Am I crazy to think that something like that should be considered?
It's a double-edged sword, in my personal opinion. The reason why I say such is this: as an independent contractor, you're your own entity. That's why you get the certain benefits that we get as our own LLC or corp, however you may have your business structured. So as that entity, you should already have things in place, so that's why you're not an employee. That's why they're not taking your Social Security out.
Okay, but wait a second. I got to stop you. A lot of people are not LLCs. A lot of people do not have, and maybe they should be.
And they're
but
the
a
same
lot of
ones
people
that are collecting unemployment right now too. I can't collect unemployment.
Okay, so, but. And valid point. I don't mean to take anything away from what you're saying at all, but I'd love to hear from everybody else too. For those that are not LLCs, for those that do not have a business collecting or paying insurance in order to cover themselves, if we had such a non-union organization that we could pay into and collect from in the event of a work stoppage, and maybe that organization could actually have an organized insurance option. We'd have to vet that. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But is there merit to thinking that way? Is there some way that someone could come along and organize a group that could give us that sort of protection? Am I crazy? I might be crazy.
I mean, I think if Live Nation can be a publicly traded company, we could do anything. But I think it's is it like a mutual fund of sorts? Or I think what you're talking about is not a bad thing, because not everybody can be LLC'd depending on their job.
I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, the ones who, for instance, with the fund, that's the situation that, we have enough trouble just getting our salary anyway. So to say somebody can take XYZ out and govern it, you might as well just do it yourself.
No. Well, but wait a second. I'm sorry. Again, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I'm not saying somebody could take it out. I'm saying we would have to consciously choose, hey, just like you would if you were employed, you can say, hey, I am going to send 10%
Okay.
into this co-op.
Hmm.
And that would give me then some sort of cushion for people that aren't great about saving their money. And I'm sure we all know some that we've thought about over the last few weeks in this
Hmm.
business, where we think this person was always grilling me for their check in order to pay
Oh,
their rent when
wait a
they
minute.
were working. Now
Hmm.
they are
Sorry,
out.
let me just
Go
interject.
ahead.
Think about people who they've been on a year-long tour all of last year. They finally closed on the house in December. You know, how many times have you done this? You waited, like you got your nut, then you look in November, December, you close the house, everything's moved in, you're ready to re-pick up work and restart everything back in the new year. Boom, here's 2020. Boom, you can't do anything. But you spent all your money buying that
Right.
house with the expectation that your big favorite artists, like let's say the Rolling Stones, because they're going to go back, they were supposed to go back out this summer. But that's your cash cow. You were going to go back there because you always go out with them. And now that's not happening. And whoops-a-daisy, there's no income coming in. And I think with having something like what we're sort of proposing, and it could be a co-op of sorts, whatever, but whatever you pay in, after a certain amount of time, you're going to get a lot more out. Because the idea is we get everybody in. And no, it's not monitoring people, or it's giving people an opportunity to have some sort of safety net. If they want to pay in, great. And then we can provide them some resources on the back end when the time comes. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, in fact, there might be. I tried to look at it yesterday. There's this thing called Crew Logic, I believe, a program that they're trying to, an advocacy program. But their website isn't totally up and running yet. I'll send you guys the link and you can take a look at it. But, I think it's all very valuable. And I think, like what Kyle's saying isn't wrong either. But the reality is that not everybody is in a situation like we might be, in the sense that we do save and we do, think about the long term. But I'd like to believe there's because to me,
Exactly.
if I was in another business, I guess this is what I'm thinking of, is if I was a lawyer or an accountant or anything else, I would have that. That would be part of my salary. I would have my salary, I would have the health insurance, and then I would have a nice little 401k plan that I would be investing into just as I do, And this is the difference in our
Exactly.
business. We're so busy, like just kind of, throw, run, go. There's been a lot of things that have just missed it. It's become one of the most richest businesses in the world, but yet it's very much broken in that it doesn't doesn't follow any real formulas of what if you were sitting in a business class, they probably wouldn't tell you to do half the things that you do in a music. When you're putting on a festival or show, right? It's like you're breaking all the rules. I mean, you look at your average promoter. Live Nation has basically eliminated what we know as the independent promoter, what we once knew as the independent promoter. But I mean, you think about it, an independent promoter right now, if they were expected to give what they normally were, 80% guarantee with an artist they've never worked with before, perhaps 90% sometimes, there's no way they're going to foot the bill for this. Let's ask those independent promoters, have CAA and William Morris, have they given even their guarantees back? Let's think about, we don't even know, like all those indie promoters out there who are putting money in to get some artists down the road. Have they been given those guarantees back? Probably not. So not only they forfeited the show, they don't even have that income now.
Yeah, and let's not even get into that. But I would like to propose that Hustle Like You Broke be a place where people can log on to our website and they can see those resources. That if our listeners know of anything, this Crew Logic that you referenced, Dallas, or any other such ideas or companies that might want to grow, not because we're talking about it, but things that as best practices become instituted and opportunities get created for crew guys to find work or save money or get better and more, what's the word that I'm looking for? Disciplined in terms of saving a little here. If you know to put your 10% of your money there, maybe, I don't want to suggest this, but maybe a very generous artist would match that contribution, or somebody out there would want to, would want to support this type of endeavor. So to our listeners, please, I would encourage you to please, send us your ideas if you know of these places or somebody has such a fund that we should be putting in front of, or a means of kind of educating our workforce, those working class heroes that we are here to support. And Brother Banks, I want to give you a chance. I do want to get to point two of my thought here, but you didn't chime in. So do you have any thoughts on what to do in this work stoppage other than what you are doing as a skilled individual working with houses of worship and what have you?
I do have. It sounds so terrible when you say it.
Yeah, the way he said it.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm a predator. Like I'm just like.
It's like
Did not mean it.
and you
You
mentioned that.
motherfucker. I'm just pissed off that
Right.
you're earning money
So
right
give
now.
us some
So
of your
fuck
money, Chris.
you, okay? That's what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm here representing
You
all
need
the
a type
broke
to be part of this
motherfuckers who are
conversation.
not. No, I am not. Hey, no,
He diversified.
Hey,
no, I'm not.
I gotta
That's what
have
I'm talking
multiple
about.
streams
That's
of
what I'm
income.
talking about. Of course,
I have to have multiple streams of income. You just never know when it's going to happen. But I'm gonna say I have a buddy who
please.
has a platform called Jamcard, and
Okay.
it's basically like a LinkedIn for our industry.
Thank you.
And he's been developing for years and years, and it's taken off. And in this time, he has been trying to implement all kinds of things. He started off his first implementation was musicians. He was taking care of musicians because he's a drummer, and basically he was creating samples for them to create samples and then to sell these samples during this time. So they've been doing that. He's also partnered with a couple people because one of his biggest investors is Quincy Jones. And Quincy has basically, put some money into it. They're creating a fund right now to help, musicians and engineers and everybody else in the touring industry during this time. He's also opened it up to the public. It was only a members only thing, but he just opened it up to the public. And this is going to give the public, the opportunity to go in and search for people, because basically it's a full LinkedIn thing. You list what your skills are and what you can do and all this other stuff, and people can literally go on and book you. And now he's also introduced to where you can get paid directly through the company, and they'll insure them payments. Like, say a company comes in and books you through the thing and they don't pay whatever, they'll insure it up to whatever certain amount of money or whatever, so that you get your money. He's trying to put all these fail safes in place so that people can find work. So that's one option right now that I know of that's actually trying to do something legitimate for our community.
I love that. I absolutely love that. But once again, you are a motherfucker because you just stole my thunder. What I was going to suggest as part 2 of my question was whether there should be, or if there is, perhaps so, some sort of message board where members of our community can, as you suggested, have sort of like a LinkedIn, but it doesn't have to be. Again, I'm not sure what Jamcard is, and perhaps this is what I'm talking about, but a place where people can find gainful employment, where people can seek out opportunities. People don't necessarily know, and this is the last time I'm going to refer to the house of worship, but people don't necessarily know that those jobs are there.
Right.
And I wasn't even necessarily even talking about music jobs. I mean, I know a lot of people in our business, a lot of people that are roadies, crew guys, basically they're construction people. This is a construction job for a lot of people in the concert industry. So what do? They flip houses. They get involved in, some sort of contracting gig. And if there is a place like that, if there was a place like that where people could come together and say, I'm in the Miami area, I got a couple of bucks and I got these skills and I'm looking for people like me that want to flip houses, or I'm in the Los Angeles area and I want to open a fucking Dairy Queen in order to diversify what the fuck I'm doing with my life in this time of need. And I do have a couple of bucks to pay the franchise fee and whatever the fuck is involved in doing something like that. Like, where is that place? Is Jamcard that place, or should there be that place? Can Hustle Like You Broke contribute to that? Can our listeners tell us about those opportunities or help us create such an opportunity so that, again, if heaven forbid we find ourselves in this situation again, there's something that we can do about it, that we have options. Again, all of us, we are hustlers. We have side hustles. I joke about, I'm not diversified enough. And again, I obviously wasn't, but I'm working on artist management opportunities. I'm working on different outlets with colleges and universities for whom I've been buying in talent and producing shows for years. And I've got a media play in this, and I'm doing everything I can in order to do something productive, but
It sounds like you have payroll.
well, but let's get to the but here.
It's
But
like
it's not.
you're cutting checks every Friday.
No fucking
Direct
hell. What
deposits.
I'm saying is,
Somebody's getting receivables.
you can shut the fuck up, motherfucker. The reality is,
Do you own a church,
right
by
now?
the way? I
Yes,
think you
I
might be a
do.
pastor.
It is the
Maybe you missed your
Hustler
calling, Matt.
Motherfucker Church.
Evangelist
We
Walt.
call it TrueMF.com. TrueMF. And yes,
Church
the
of
house
God in Christ.
of motherfuckers. The house of
Oh, gosh.
motherfuckers.
Definitely going to hell.
Yo. But you'll get a check. You will get that check.
Back on track, motherfuckers. You understand what I'm saying? Somebody please let me stop talking and tell me if they agree, if they disagree, if I'm onto something, if I'm fucking dumb, if Jam Card is what it is, or something that will help our listeners and the people of this industry in order to advance themselves in a time of need. Somebody.
Say
Dallas.
it one more time.
Shut the fuck up. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Jam Card is essentially that what you're speaking about. It's you tell them what location you're in. It's got a whole profile. You list people.
Okay, stop. We're not a product endorsement for Jam Card yet. They can pay us for that shit. But yes, that is the right track. Kyle, please.
Talk to me.
Man, I guess only one of the three of y'all was listening. Got caught up in the house of motherfucker. I'm asking what that place is, motherfucker. What that place is that those working class heroes who have not diversified their portfolio to the extent that you have can go, Jam Card or otherwise. What can we be doing? Give us a fresh take.
As far as a fresh take, that's kind of rough. And the reason why I say that is this. In order when it's good, you can't get complacent. Like regardless when I'm rocking out with whomever artist I'm rocking out with, I don't just think about them. I'm thinking about other opportunities before it gets cold.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't wait till it's frosty and they're like, oh my God, what can I do now? Because at that point, everything is already fulfilled as far as placements and people that are needed anyway. You have to already keep your irons in the fire. So last minute entertainment never works. So to say, what do I know of a message board off the top of my head? Today, I can't give you one. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day after doing a little research. But that's why, when people say, Kyle, you're available? May not be available today, but I stay in touch with you and we keep communication going until then, or I could put somebody in place, or we can figure it out when it comes up. Because we get called all the time. Or is there multiple me? No, it's just me. So that's why you have to build your network first, and then with doing that, you just stay in constant communication because stuff comes across your plate all the time. I'm sure with your multiple streams of income and multiple employees that work for you. Yo, Matt, I got this for you. Let me figure it out. And then you put it on the back burner, but it's still in your pipeline so that when things do show up, you could pull that trigger. So that's the situation. It's about not just getting comfortable and complacent in who you work and while the checks are coming in. It's about keeping it moving before they stop coming in.
I love that. I appreciate that. I think that's right on the money.
No, I was just
Dallas,
gonna say, I
please.
totally agree with Colin. I think in another way of saying it is like it is the rainy day fund. I mean, if you want to stay in this long term and you want to be able to survive it, effectively, like the four of us have probably done that. We've rainy day funded ourselves. We've made sure that we came home with our per diems and our other monies. We didn't just like put it on the bar floor or whatever. And I think that, but just because we have protected ourselves, does not necessarily mean I think that's the answer. I think we are better than that. And I think that's something that we can share as an industry. And I think we need to look at it as an industry. But I think this is where the reality of the industry is so fragile. When you think of what it takes to put on a festival, for example, you've got your headlining acts with their core crew, with qualified, exceptional, best of the best people in that field. But when you actually look at the festival side of it, like who actually produces a festival, a lot of that personnel is not at the same level. They are, they do like, there's many people that do sort of, they go from festival to festival nowadays in the summertime. They have like this network of runners, a network of back of house people, a network of stage managers and such. And they just kind of roam from festival to festival. So again, another burden at the moment is if they put all these festivals on, if we were to, let's say, go with this bright idea of October being the answer, that too will be another hindrance to the whole process, because you can't put all these festivals on in October, November, when the same labor pool is going to be strapped out. And we want to keep our expertise within our industry. But I do think we need to come up with some sort of governing board, for lack of a better word, who can give us something to focus on in terms of formalities, whether, for better pay or better contract negotiation, insurance, health insurance. I mean, some people can't afford the health insurance that's out there, if they have a family or whatever. It's not conducive to them. If they're a single person, they're paying $600 a month for what? Whereas if they were with a group of people, they could get a better deal. So, but I think also in this particular disaster, many of us, no matter what your skills, you just have nowhere to go, because I can go to Amazon, but that's not what I do. And maybe I can, be in the queue for the 100,000 people that might get a job there. And sure, I can maybe make some money, but do I want to end up at Amazon for the rest of my life? That's not what I'm looking for. I want us to get back into our industry, and I want us to get in deep, but I think we should be better prepared when we open the doors to the next show, to be quite honest.
Well, there it is. So I think that's a good place to dovetail this conversation for today. I would like to encourage closing thoughts from my esteemed co-host. For me, I think that, as we're all talking about, as an industry, we just need to look for opportunities to take care of our own. We need to look for people that can lead those opportunities. We need ideas coming from, we need a place to be able to share these ideas and vet them out and explore ways to be better prepared. Heaven forbid something like this ever happen again. And I'm just honored and proud to be talking to you three about this, and to bounce my ideas off of you. And I did not mean to say anything negative, Banks, about Jam Card. I think that sounds like a great place to look. And I think they should pay us for that. And I think that we should see if there are any other places that we should be propping up as well. I would like this platform to be a place where we can prop people up, prop up opportunities, create fresh ideas, and advance this industry and move it into the 22nd century, safer, more healthy, more active, more financially rewarding for everybody. Brother Banks, any closing thoughts from you, sir?
I just I think going back to what Kyle and Christine were saying, I think it starts even before this. I think we just have to have more conversations of just about financial literacy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
I think more conversations need to be had. I mean, I don't know if it's starting a financial literacy group or
Okay.
or something. I feel like there's so many people, and I'm always quick to share, when I'm on the bus or when I'm sitting with my crew or whatever. I just share with people what I do, just to save money, to put myself in a proper tax situation, and just all kinds of different things. People don't know about write-offs and, different things like that. And, just it's just a conversation I think that needs to be had more often than it does happen when you're in a situation and then you're screwed. Um, like I said, I don't know what that looks like, but I think the biggest thing is just, talking to people and having a place where people can come and ask questions about their finances.
Thank you, Brother Banks. One more reason that you are the real life human embodiment of your namesake, Carlton Banks. And to you, Mr. Motherfucker,
Evening.
Kyle Hamilton.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, my friend.
It's evening somewhere.
It's always evening somewhere in your world, and I'm sure wherever that is, you are achieving a perfect balance.
Yeah, well, that's why you stay diversified, because I could be working on a different coast and not even know what time it is.
There
Staying
it is.
ahead of the curve, baby.
And is that your final thought, or do you have anything else to impart?
My final thought is, look, stay in the now, but keep the future open.
There it is. I like that, short and sweet. Christine Dallas, please impart some wisdom on us.
Well, all I can really say, I think, is just I want to be positive about the future, but I do think it is the time of reckoning, so to speak, to get some formalities and structure in place for our industry, because I care about it deeply. And I think that, this is the first time ever that people have had an actual career in this business. People are retiring from this business now. We can look at some of the leaders who are now getting in their silver years. And, it's a real thing where once upon a time it wasn't. And, but I think for success, you have to have, as Chris put it, financial understanding and gain and, a real idea of how to use it, because too many people are not prepared for the end in the future and their retirement years. And I think it'd be really cool to be able to say, I did this all my life and now I can retire from it. And at this particular moment, I've got to now think about how I'm going to recreate myself for the next 25 years, So that's all I've got.
There it is. I think that's a lot. Thank you again to my esteemed colleagues. Thank you to our listeners. We are Hustle Like You Broke. We will keep hustling. We hope you do too. We will see you next time. Thank you and good night.